Hello, fictional. Welcome to the Fiction Series X. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei was the dungeon maest? If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Guo Town. Within the quiet of the night, a soul was returned to his surprise, as he had experienced death from the same one who killed him. Issei gasped as he woke up after his nightmare, feeling fresh air enter his lungs again, which shocked him as he looked around and saw that he was back in his room. I'm still alive, but how? Issei asked himself as he looked around. He was still in his room before checking the time to see that it was midnight. But I was sure I was with her on a date and then wait, my chest. Issei freaked out, looking at his chest to see that it was okay and that his heart was still beating, but the image of Raynare appeared in his mind. However, instead of the warm smile she had on her face, she vanished and a cold smirk replaced it. She cackled at Issei while jet black wings and a spear of light emerged from her back. Oh, don't feel guilty about this. I had fun on that date. It was like playing house with a child. If you wish to blame someone, blame God for the sacred gear inside you. That's what she said, but what did she mean by that? Sacred gear? I don't even know what that is and why I have one. Issei said as he was too scared to think straight until a voice spoke to him. I can help with that. The voice said as Issei turned to see a figure standing in his room. The figure was a tall man who looked strangely similar to Udo Kiba, but this guy looked different since he seemed to be more mature than he was most of the time, and instead of a pretty boy, he seemed more like a soldier who came back from a war. Who are you? You look like someone from my school, and Issei said as the figure held a hand up. If you think that I'm Udo Kiba, then you are not wrong but not right at the same time. You may call me Yu. That is my new name when my master saved me. The now named Yu said. Issei was surprised by this before nodding and sitting on his bed. Yu took out a teapot and poured Issei a glass. Here. You should drink some tea. It'll help you calm your nerves because what I'm about to tell you will scare you. Yu said as Issei accepted the glass and drank the tea, feeling relieved and calm before the man sat down and sighed. My master is very busy, so I'll try to stay brief. Issei Haidu. You have died from a fallen angel known as Raynare. She was deceiving you because of what you have inside of you. Yu explained as Issei was shocked by this before Issei swallowed his spit and asked. But I don't understand why she killed me. Was it because I was a pervert? Was it due to karma or something? I had no idea what she meant by that. Why kill me when she was more interested in this sacred gear thing? Also, if that's the case, that I did indeed die, then how am I alive? Issei asked as he yelled across at Yu, who didn't seem fazed at his outburst before the man poured Issei more tea and gave it to him. Issei looked at the warm tea before drinking it and sighed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell like that to you when you've been kind to me. Issei said before Yu reassured him with a pat on his shoulder. Don't be. It's only natural that you are scared because of what happened to you. Now, as for your questions. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Yu said as he began to explain Issei's predicament. She targeted you because her boss, Azazel the Fallen, wished to investigate what kind of sacred gear you had within you, Yu said. Issei was shocked by this before Yu continued but kept a secret in his head. It's interesting since it's different from any of the other ones you've had in other worlds, but I can't tell you that. However, that woman wished to be loved by Azazel, so the idiot believed that if she took out a threat to her beloved Azazel, then she would be praised, but all she was given was banishment for disobeying orders. I will admit that people think of this as karma, but it was more like being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You are a good person, Issei. You may be a pervert, but you have boundaries that even you don't cross. You are a lot like my version of you, he was like a brother to me. Yu said as he looked nostalgic, looking at his left hand before revealing it as a crimson gauntlet. Issei was surprised by this before Yu walked over and placed a hand on the boy's chest. Issei felt a strange power awaken in him, and he looked at a book that appeared in his lap. Issei gently picked it up as if it were fragile before turning the pages to see they were blank. Wait, this is my sacred gear? A book? Issei asked, and Yu chuckled at his response before explaining the book. This book is something special. It's a lost longinus, a sacred gear that was created to have the potential to kill a god, but was lost in time for centuries due to others fearing its power, but as others passed away and took the secret with them, the sacred gear was never sent into the sacred gear system. This sacred gear is known as the Book of Beasts, which is a book that a powerful magician created so he could bring his creations to life. This is similar to the Longinus Annihilation Maker, but different due to that version of it being limited to one's imagination. The Book of Beasts, however, allows the user to create monsters and upgrade beasts in their base of operations. Yu said as Issei was in awe at this before catching the last part that he said. Wait, you said a base of operations, so does that mean I can set up a dungeon of sorts? Issei asked as Yu smiled and nodded. Of course. You can set up your base anywhere you desire, but know that being a dungeon master and learning how to use the Book of Beasts is no easy feat since it takes a lot of practice to use its full potential. Even the creator of the sacred gear had trouble mastering it and he made it himself. Yu said as he then continued. Knowing that, do you still want the sacred gear within you? I can easily remove it from you without any issues so you can live a peaceful life. Yu said as Issei pondered this question before looking down at the book. He thought of this as an opportunity to protect himself from those who would want to harm him and his family and friends. If I can master the powers I've been blessed with, then maybe I can use this not only to protect my friends and family, but also to prepare for when Raynare comes. That way, I'll not only be prepared but also be ready for anything the supernatural world throws at me. Issei said in his mind that the scenario was similar to a game that he loved to play, since he was able to choose what path he desired when playing. Issei always chose the neutral route since he was annoyed that the lawful ones mostly resulted in white knights or protagonists like that annoying ninja with a big mouth. Granted, Issei desired to be a hero, but as he got older, he learned that heroes aren't perfect and struggle to stay between the lines of good and evil. For example, Superman, a god among men, became a dystopian dictator after losing the one he loved to one of the evilest villains. Chaotic characters were interesting, like the snake ninja from the ninja show or even that demon that was a human before. Still, they were either way too cringy, too obsessed with the protagonist, or boring characters, which led to Issei liking neutral characters like the archer from the anime he watched about the Holy War or even the homunculus from the Alchemist show. Especially after that one isekai called Shadow. If it's okay with you, I would like to keep it. I think this will allow me to grow into a better man, and with this power, I can protect those I love. Issei said, not seeing Yu's eyes soften and a faint smile appear on his lips. You and each one are the same, Yu whispered as he heard Issei ask another question. But there's one thing you didn't explain to me. How am I still alive? I remember dying from the spear, so how am I still here? Issei asked as Yu pointed to the calendar, which showed that it was a year before Issei met Raynare. Wait, this is when I'm graduating from my final year of middle school before I start my high school life at Kuo Academy, but that makes no sense. How? Issei asked as Yu explained. I saved your life by sending you back in time, and thanks to my master's assistance, he was able to ensure that you could become strong enough to defend yourself and your loved ones, Yu said. Issei felt blessed and bowed in thanks to Yu and his master's help before Yu reassured him that it was fine. Especially considering I owe you a lot more than you think, Yu said as Issei was surprised by his wording before he had to ask. Does this have to do with a version of me you knew? Issei asked. Yu was silent for a moment before he sighed. It was back in my world before it was destroyed. My friends and I were facing a monster unlike anything we had in our previous battles. Yu said as he closed his eyes and recalled the shouts of war as he saw his friends and comrades in arms fight the beast. Many lives were lost in that battle, and slowly, one by one, my friends died, all except for my brother Issei, who was much stronger than me, as he could weaken the beast long enough for me to end it, Yu said as he clenched his left fist and looked at the gauntlet before closing his eyes as he felt sadness enter his heart at the memory. But once the war ended, my brother was all I had left, Yu said as he recalled the memories of his version of Issei. My brother Issei was too injured to remain a warrior and had limited time in the world, so before he died, he lived each day to the fullest with that stupid smile that he always had on his face. Yu chuckled as he recalled many of the shenanigans that his Issei got into with him there. But Issei's time came, and he died in his sleep with a smile on his face that showed he was content and glad about the life he had. He held out, thinking he would be able to see Rias and the others again. But a month before he passed on, Issei gave me a parting gift. His own sacred gear and the weapon he gave me to kill the monster, Yu said as he looked at his left arm and showed it to the Issei before him until Yu adopted a look of nostalgia on his face. After he died, the world just started to slow down. Everything was peaceful and there was no more war. It was wonderful, but after all I've been through, I couldn't adopt a life of peace without my friends and brother who saved me from my depression and past. I was about to let my life rot away, but that's when my master showed up. Yu said Issei was in awe of the memories before him until the soldier stood up and patted Issei's head. You got a good heart, Issei, so don't let that make you think that is what makes you weak. You are a good person, Issei, and you deserve happiness. Yu said before Issei looked at him with concern and asked. But don't you deserve happiness as well? Don't you get lonely after all you've been through and losing your world? Issei asked before Yu chuckled in response. Well, not all the time. I have someone special who keeps me grounded, makes sure I go to therapy, and helps me love myself. You'll also find someone special who'll be there for you and vice versa. Trust me on that, kid. Yu said as Issei smiled. He was glad that the soldier before him found peace and happiness. Thanks, but I would like to ask, how do I activate my powers? Issei asked as Yu chuckled at his innocent question and responded. Just summon the book and it'll tell you what to do, Yu said as he opened a portal and turned back to Issei with a smile. Live your life, Issei Haidu. You'll have a fantastic time with your second life. Don't waste it. Oh, and one thing you should know. Refrain from trusting the supernatural world. There are good people in the world, but there will be others who will try to use you for your power, so be careful who you trust, and if you wish to be a neutral person, then make sure to decide which kind you'd like. Lawful, chaotic, or true. My master is interested in what you'll do. Yu said as Issei nodded, keeping this information in the back of his mind. Yu walked through the portal and closed it behind him as he left the house and Issei's world. Issei then looked at the full moon as Issei smiled at it before clenching his fist and declaring a vow to the moon. Bring it on. I'll take on anything the supernatural world will throw at me. Issei said with a confident smile as the moon shined a bit brighter, as if it had received Issei's vow and would watch the events that would occur. Within the void. So, how did he take it? A voice asked as Yu stood before a massive deity explaining what had happened. He accepted his power and wished to live his life, but I must ask, did you do anything to the others in the world he lives in? Yu asked as the voice laughed before responding to him. Oh, my child, I said that I may like to interfere when something or someone amuses me, but I would never alter the fate of others. I leave that to the world and the choices they make. There are so many possibilities within the multiverse that leads to either a bright future, a damned world, or a different fate. This Issei's story will be intriguing since a couple of people's destiny has already been altered. The voice replied as Yu was shocked at the changes in the world. Whoa. This version of me is. Indeed. Seeing what'll happen now is truly amusing, so let's sit back and watch, shall we? The voice said as a bag of popcorn appeared before Yu. He accepted it and began to see the new world and what would become of it. I can spare some time. Just hope my wife doesn't chase after me when she realizes I'm out too long. Ah, don't worry, my boy. I've informed her of your assistance, so she knows how much you care for the balance of the universes I manage. The voice said as the deity and Yu began to observe this new world that piqued their interest. The world of a dungeon master that would shake the supernatural world. Meanwhile, back with Issei Haidu. So I have to establish a location before I can see what I can do. Issei said to himself as he looked at the book, which displayed a screen before him. Issei Haidu. Rank. 0. No dungeon. Skills. Only available once the dungeon is completed. Map. Available to use. Maybe this map can help me choose where to set it up. A location that keeps it hidden from intruders and out of sight from others who might stumble in by accident. Issei said as he opened the map and looked at the area before seeing the same school he would be attending in a month. Kuo Academy. Being in the academy would be an excellent choice for my base, especially if I can make the ones I create humanoid to blend in. Still, I also need some security as well, just in case the supernatural world tries to sneak someone in through, say, the forest or blend in as a human. Issei said that he knew that when establishing a base of operations, he needed generals who would help him protect the city, especially since there's always the chance of intruders already being in the town. You have selected the Kuo Academy to act as your dungeon base. Would you like a diagram of it? Yes, I would, Issei said as the screen showed the school's exterior to be in amazing condition and stability. While there were some security issues with the rooftop, they could be taken care of with magic. Not bad. Plus, the school can be altered with magic to give me a lot more room to work with when dealing with enemies, Issei said, seeing an opportunity to have a place in the school. The student council seat. Issei pondered. He never imagined being in a position like the student council president, but having a position like that would allow him to have a good experience at the school and also watch over the town. Would you like to choose this as your base of operations? Yes or no? Issei smiled as he tapped the yes option and saw the base begin to be built in the school, which excited Issei. He then looked at the time to see that it would take 12 hours to be rebuilt and completed for usage. 12 o'clock hours remaining until the base has been established. Issei was surprised by this as he looked at the clock to say it was only 1 in the morning. I don't feel sleepy, but perhaps I can plan on having some monsters to aid the school once it's been restored. Issei said as he began to look in the book while writing down some things about the outside of the school. Issei knew the dungeons always start at the top and work their way down, so Issei wanted creatures that would work well in large areas like the field next to the school, the forest, or even the park. The school entrance is large enough for a battle to take place and for warriors and such to move freely, but if the fights were to occur in the school, it would severely damage while possibly killing innocent people in the perimeter. It'll be good to have monsters who are small and elegant. Still, if we can expand the size of the floors with some magic, then I could add some more traps and monsters to deal with intruders, Issei said as he looked at the book and saw it flip through its pages before stopping at a select few suggestions for its master. This'll be a good start, but I want to have my creations on the council when I run for it, but I need a competent vice president to be my second in command to give orders in battle when I'm not there. Issei said as the book began to flip through its pages before revealing a page that intrigued Issei. Skill unlocked. Creation. It allows the user to use the Book of Beasts to create monsters of any kind, and the book allows the user to edit the demons to give them abilities and such. Warning. It costs magic to summon created beasts. Since the base is being established, I can create my monsters. This'll be helpful when it's completed. Issei said to himself as he began to draw some creatures that came to his mind since he watched anime, read a lot of manga with monsters in it, and knew how to design them. Now I just need to wait another 12 hours before summoning them, Issei said as he continued to draw his first selection of monsters from the book without even noticing the time passing. Issei poured his heart and soul into all of his drawings, as well as their personalities, skills, and names, to make them feel special, instead of just some NPC who is just a background character. 5 hours later. And these will be excellent for aerial combat to deal with beings such as fallen angels and such, Issei said before some light began to enter the room. Is it morning already? Issei asked himself as he looked at the time, seeing that the sun was beginning to rise. Guess time flies when you are having fun. Issei said as he looked at the time and saw that it was 6 in the morning, meaning he still had 7 hours to wait before them all was completed. Issei then looked over the 13 creatures he had spent drawing throughout the night before smiling at their designs. Wow. I forgot that I enjoyed drawing these creatures when I was with Rin. I wonder how he's doing now. Issei asked himself as he got out of bed and dressed in his new school uniform before seeing the book vanish out of sight. Well, that takes care of how I'm hiding my book, Issei said as he walked downstairs to see that his mother was still asleep while his old man was getting ready for work. Ah, Issei. Good to see you are up. Goru Haidu said as Issei smiled at his old man before hugging him, which surprised Goru for a second, but still, the man smiled as he hugged his son back. I'm surprised but happy to see you are well. Oh, I wanted to remind you that today is a half day since it's the last day of school. I'm so proud of you for passing your final year of middle school, and soon, you'll be a high schooler. Goru said, and Issei smiled in reply as he watched his dad leave the house before preparing some breakfast for him and his mother. This time, I'll make sure I'll make them proud of me. Issei said with resolve as he finished his breakfast and put his mother's half on a plate before leaving it on her nightstand with a note. Nikki smiled as she felt her son hug her before he cleaned the dishes and headed out to school for the day, unaware of the changes in the world and the fate of others. Unknown location. The heavy sound of metal echoed through the halls of a church as a tall knight in black armor walked towards the altar to see a scared priest. He looked at the knight in fear, knowing who they were. Stay away from me, you monster. The priest shouted. The knight didn't stop as it kept walking toward the priest before summoning a sword that radiated pure darkness. Before the sword flew toward the priest and stabbed him in the left leg, another flew toward the man's right arm and pinned him to the cross behind him. The dark knight continued to walk toward the priest before conjuring another sword and lifting it a little. The knight stopped before the helmet came off itself and his amber eyes glowed in the darkness. After 5 years of searching, I finally hunted you down. The man responsible for destroying my life and making me become the monster I am today. The knight's voice said as the sword sliced off the stabbed arm and leg, making the priest cry as he looked at the knight before him. Listen to me. I understand why you are mad at me, but it was all for the greater good. The greater good? What good came from experimenting on 65 innocent children who had done nothing wrong? A new weapon to serve the church faction. A weapon that you helped create in your lab as you were there that night when I passed your little test by forcing me into a world of endless hell. The knight said as the sword vanished before an unknown force lifted the priest before the priest's windpipe began to be crushed by the strange force. Mercy. The priest stuttered as he tried to beg the knight for mercy until a chuckle came out of the knight's mouth. The knight said as the chuckle slowly moved to become roaring laughter. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. The knight laughed as if they were told a hilarious joke until the knight sighed in relief while wiping an eye with an armored finger. Ah. I haven't laughed that hard in years. Thank you for amusing me while I enjoyed killing you for what you put me through all those years ago. The knight said before the smile dropped as they continued choking the priest. Oh, and allow me to quote what you told me when I begged you for mercy as well when you experimented on me so much you made me into a living weapon. The knight said as they continued. Mercy is for the weak and helpless. The priest's eyes widened in fear as his windpipe was broken and he was subjected to death. The body then fell to the ground as if cut off from its strings holding him up before the knight left the church while tossing some stones all around the inside. Once the knight made it out of the church, they turned to the church before pulling out a small device and clicking the button on it before the stones within the church ignited as they blew up the inside of the church, which caused the rest of the church to fall as well. And with that, my past is finally destroyed. The knight said as the knight felt a breeze hit their face as long blue hair billowed behind a feminine-like look. This breeze. It feels like it's leading me somewhere. The knight said as she closed her eyes and followed the breeze toward its location. Japan. Interesting. Perhaps I can find someone to entertain me while I'm there. The knight said as she put her helmet back on her head before heading in that direction. Also, Irina told me about a friend of hers living in Japan. Perhaps I should meet him and see what kind of person he is to see if he's just like Irina described him. The knight pondered as she headed toward Japan to find something to entertain her now that her past is finally buried. Thus began the journey of the Knight of the Dark Holy Blacksmith. Back in Kuo town at Kuo Academy's front entrance. A portal opened on the academy's rooftop. Issei walked out of it and was amazed by the view from the top. Wow. This makes for a really nice spot for lunch. Issei said as he looked at the screen before seeing that the time remaining was shorter than before, which made him glad before he walked into the building and was amazed by the spectacular view of the inside, while his mind saw the possibilities of improving the school for his base of operations. Issei then noticed a lack of people in the building, before recalling that since it was a half day, most people were out and enjoying their summer vacation right now. Well, I may as well take advantage of the opportunity to see what my new base has to offer, Issei said as he looked at the gymnasium, the pool area, the classroom he was in, and finally, the student council office. Issei entered the room and was surprised to see that someone was in it. Ah, hello there. May I help you with something? The lady asked as she approached Issei with concern. She suspected that the school would be empty after the half day had ended. Oh well, I'll be a new student here and I wanted to ask about the student council positions since I do wish to run for the president position, Issei said with sincerity. The lady was amazed someone wished to aim for the position of president before the woman, who introduced herself as Venelana Gremory, then explained that only the president is elected in the council by the students. The election is done partway through the school year. The elected president will then have the sole authority to appoint students to positions in the council. There are 6 positions in the council. President, Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer, Auditor, and General Affairs Officer. So 5 of the 13 I made will be working with me. I do need some guards outside the school to keep an eye on the areas such as the mall, the forest, the neighborhoods, and even the abandoned temples in the west. Issei said as he made calculations on how to disperse his creatures before Issei thanked Venelana for the explanation and the tour of the rest of the school before Venelana let Issei place his name in the ring for the new semester coming soon. Issei then left the school, smiling at the information he had been given before he saw the screen appear. As a special reward for your start as a dungeon master, you are now given 25 workers. Issei then teleported to the student council room and used a special seal on the door to keep the noise inside, as well as the soon-to-be creatures he would summon with magic. Issei then snapped his fingers as the screen appeared before him once again. He then looked to see the workers, as he was told, and was very impressed by them. 5 were flying eyes, which looked like massive eyes with bat wings. 10 of the workers were low-level imp demons with spiky black hair and pitchforks along with bat wings, before the last 10 were unique little imps since they seemed to be regular demons, but they had pickaxes and such to aid them. Flying eye. Rank 1. Skills. Flight and laser eye. Demon. Rank 1. Skills. Flight and fireball. Weapon. Hell pitchfork. Imp worker. Rank 1. Talents. Dark magic. Weapons. Pickaxe and claws. Whoa. Not bad for my first group of demons. Issei said that before he had seen a massive map appear on the floor before the president's desk. Issei then looked at the whole town right before him in a 3-dimensional map view. He even saw the areas where he wanted to place his security forces to ensure that the town and the people would be safe and warn him of supernatural foes that would intrude on his base. As dungeon master, you are responsible for always protecting the dungeon core. If the enemy were to destroy the core, then the dungeon would fall and its residents, except for the dungeon master. Your dungeon core is located in the student council room. Issei then looked at the map before him and saw that the dungeon core was on an altar with a crimson-red stone that glowed brightly. Interesting. So, the core is always in the base where I established it. That's good to know. Plus, it makes sense since the main room where the core is usually is where the final boss is in games. Issei said to himself before looking at his workers. He saw one of the imps walk towards Issei as it chittered a bit before bowing to him. What is it, little one? Do not be afraid to speak, Issei said as the imp held out some stones. Issei accepted the stones, looked at them, and whistled at them. "And what are these stones?" Issei asked as the imp chittered again, and strangely, Issei could understand the imp. "So I can use these to strengthen the dungeon and increase its rank." "Good to know. How do I do that?" The imps then led Issei to the altar. When Issei placed a hand on the altar, he was surprised to see that it lit up and a screen appeared before him. Issei Haidu. Guo Academy. Minions list. Flying Eye. Imp. Demon. Rank 1. Skills. Creation. This allows the user to use the Book of Beasts to create monsters of any kind, and the book allows the user to edit demons to give them abilities and the like. Warning. It costs magic to summon created beasts. Reorganizing. Allows the dungeon master to edit the floors by adding traps and such. Because you are the first dungeon master, you may now summon special dungeon items and monsters with the creation skill, and receive a special store item. Issei looked to see that the special item was a coupon before he read it. 10 free dungeon item draws guarantees 2 rank 5 or 1 rank 6 item. So this is a gacha game of sorts. Nice. Issei grumbled as he hated gacha games because of the random draws, which are a pain to deal with until he then decided to bring out the drawn monsters that he had made, so he walked towards the dungeon core, which was in the center of the floor, and he then saw a table to place his drawings on it. "I will bring this one to life first," Issei said as the dungeon core accepted the page. Issei felt some magic being sucked out of his body before the dungeon core opened a portal as a being came forth. Issei smiled as he recognized the demon he drew. "Bumera eyes, Edelgard," Issei said as the demon stood before him. The devil appeared to be a maid of sorts with light dark skin lined with tiny scales that had become completely smooth and glossy. Her legs were in black tights and her hands were covered with white gloves. For her lizard-like pupils, on top of wearing thick glasses, her forelocks hung down and hid them. Overall, she looked like a high-class maid. However, Issei knew better than that since he designed her to be a deadly combat maid. "I, Edelgard, am honored to be summoned to the land by my master, Issei Haidu, who I serve and only serve until the day I die," Edelgard said as she curtsied and introduced herself before Issei smiled at her and patted her head, which made the maid smile at the affection. Edelgard. Demon Combat Maid. Rank 2. Demon Maid is not to be underestimated in or out of combat. The demon Edelgard is very dangerous and excels in speed. She uses a deadly blood spear similar to the ancient spear Gabolg. Skills. Excel Boost. Increases speed for 5 minutes. Leadership. Capable of leading a small group of followers. Bloody Strike. The spear can fly through enemy barriers and pierce their weaknesses. This skill can be used up to 5 times a day before recharging. Excellent. Now then, Edelgard. You shall become my first general of the town that is our base of operations. You'll be in charge of the abandoned area where the temple resides since I believe you'll enjoy yourself there with the minions that I shall give you," Issei said. The demon maid was honored to be given such a place and task before she bowed and smiled at her creator and master. "I shall not let you down, master. May I borrow 5 of the eyes and demons?" "Of course," Issei said before instructing 5 of the demons and flying eyes to be under Edelgard's leadership as the demon maid teleported to the temple with the 10 demons behind her, excited to see her base and prepare it in honor of their master and creator. Edelgard then left the portal as she was amazed by the location of the abandoned areas, such as the temple. Before her eyes, she saw the perfect place for her to establish her base of operations and looked at its design. It was a Japanese estate a bit outside of town near the woods. It appeared to be connected to an old martial arts training ground and temple, but had since been renovated with some additional Western architecture and modern amenities. Edelgard only cared a little for all the fancy staircases and elaborate decorations, but she did find the hybrid of Western and Japanese architecture unique and interesting. The maid's favorite thing about the house was how spacious and isolated it was in the mountainous woods outside of town. It was roughly 30 minutes away from her master's house by vehicle and even came with a massive storage area that she already knew would become the garage for their weapons and supplies. The backyard looked perfect for training as well, which was all she needed to see to convince her that this was fully perfect for her base. "Listen up. This base shall be where we make camp, prepare it for Issei Haidu, and show him that we shall protect his base and home," Edelgard said as she summoned a broom and smiled at her minions, ready to assist as well, before smiling at them all. "Now, let's get this place in tip-top shape for Issei when he arrives," Edelgard said as the maid was on a mission and she wouldn't fail her master. Meanwhile, back at Kuo Academy. Issei thanked the imp who gave him the stones before giving them orders to explore the school area for any items and materials that would be useful before putting them under an illusion spell to hide them from the sight of others. Plus, if the imps found any weapons, then they could use said weapons to protect themselves from intruders. The imps felt flattered by their master's kindness, so they got to work immediately. Issei looked at the map of the town and saw that there were 5 areas where one of his creations could be placed. Issei smiled at this, then looked at his stats, surprised that they were much more significant now. Issei Haidu. Dungeon rank. 1. Dungeon core. 500 500s. Guo Academy. Skills. Creation, reorganizing, scan, and storage. Magic level. Total minions. 26. How come I can't see my magic level? Issei pondered as he tapped on it before feeling a sense of power flow through his body. What was that feeling just now? Issei asked himself. He then held out his hand and looked at the gems he had been given earlier before using his spell scan. Magic gems will allow you to learn new spells or give them to the dungeon core to restore its durability and raise your rank even higher. You currently have the following. Rank 1 Water Gem. Rank 1 Earth Gem. Rank 1 Wind Gem. Rank 2 Fire Gem. Would you like to sacrifice any to the dungeon core? I'll choose to sacrifice the rank 1 gems, except for the rank 2 Fire Gem. I wish to learn a spell from that one. Issei said as he tapped the stones and saw them turn into magic as they went into the dungeon core, making it shine brightly, while the fire gem glowed and became a crimson-red magic as it went into Issei's chest before he felt a spell appear in his mind. Hellfire Mantle, Issei said as he was covered in a bright red veil of fire. He stared at his hands in awe since he didn't feel harmed by the flames. He then willed the fire away as he looked at his stats. Spells unlocked. Hellfire Mantle. Allows the user to become cloaked in a veil of hellfire that can burn through the enemy's flesh and bones before searing the soul to damnation. Flamethrower. Allows the user to breathe or unleash a stream of fire and burn the enemies. Flame Burst. The user can shoot a fireball at the enemies and cause a small explosion that harms those in its blast radius. Personal Magic unlocked. Infinity is a unique and potent personal magic that allows users to keep their spells active until they choose to dispel them. No matter the spell's power, the user only needs to cast it once for the ability to take effect. Through an enchantment, the user can also apply infinity into a spell to continuously channel magical power to it, making it exponentially more powerful. What the hell? I can keep regenerating magic and only need to cast it once. It sounds too good to be true, but if that's true, then I should be able to summon the others. However, I shouldn't get too arrogant. I hardly know any spells, so I should be careful how many I summon. Issei said that he wasn't sure if the infinity magic applied to his creations, because if that's the case, he should be able to do some edits and make his demons even more potent. Due to your caring nature and desire to assist your minions, you have unlocked the Dungeon Master's editing ability. Editing. Allows the Dungeon Master to grant special skills to the minions and enchantments. Issei was impressed by this before he decided to test it out on the imps returning from the exploration. Guo Academy expedition cleared. No lives were lost. Total bases available in Guo Academy Base. 6. Base 1. Owned by Adelgard. Storage room. This allows the Dungeon Master to store items and such inside of it. Training arena. Allows demons to train their skills and such. Mining area. Allows the members of said base to mine for elemental gems to learn new spells, increase dungeon rank, or grant minions unique powers. Resting area. Allows minions and workers to rest when night comes. Issei was rather impressed by this as he thanked his imps and wished to give them a special gift, so he selected all of them and decided to look at the editing menu. Editing menu. Imps. Rank 1. Available skills. Boost. Allows the users to increase their physical strength quickly. Iron Pickaxe. Allows the users to cut through stricter stone. You all did a wonderful job, so I'll give you all new skills, Issei said as the imps were covered in a bright purple aura before they saw that their weapons were more potent now while they felt refreshed. I thank you for your hard work, and if you continue to assist me, then I promise that you all will grow into even stronger demons that are respected for your work in the dungeon, Issei said, as the imps were touched by the fact that their master wishes to help them become more assertive, which raised their morale as they showed their master the spoils of their trip. A couple of rusted weapons, old spellbook suitable for Issei as a caster, a couple of rank 1 and rank 2 gems, and a book that seemed satisfactory before he used scan to see what it was. Skill book. Allows the user to learn new skills. A skill that can be obtained from learning this is contract. This allows the dungeon master to form a blood contract with another creature to make it join the dungeon. Issei was interested in this as he absorbed the skill book, looked at the old spellbooks, and was amused by their contents. Spellbooks available. 2 dark spellbooks. 2 wind spellbooks. 1 fire spellbook. Issei then gave the demons the 1 fire spellbook to help them learn new fire magic. The flying eyes gained a wind spellbook to assist them in surveying the area. Adelgard was given the first dark spellbook, while the imps turned down the second spellbook since they were grateful for their master, giving them 2 new special skills. Issei thanked the imp workers and took the second wind and dark spellbook before smiling at his minion skills. Fire spell earned by demons. Flame arrows allow users to fire flaming arrows at the enemy. Wind spell earned by flying eyes. Wind barrier. Keeps the user safe from low-rank spells and weapons. Dark spell earned by Adelgard. Shadow clone. Allows the user to create a clone of themselves to take a blow or to strike the enemy. Using multiple clones will use up magic from the user, so be advised on the number of clones created. Dark and wind spell earned by Issei Haidu. Dark bullet. Allows the user to fire a concentrated bullet of darkness at the enemy. Whirlwind. Surrounds user or item with a powerful whirlwind that blows enemies away. Issei smiled at his new skills before seeing a notification appear. Your dungeon rank is now rank 2. New perks. Batches store. This allows users to use summoning tickets for unique items in the dungeon. Base expansion is not available until the dungeon master passes the trial and establishes a secure base. To rank up the dungeon master must pass the trial run. The trial run begins in 1 month. Time remaining. 30 days. Whoa. Okay, then, it's time to summon the others, Issei said as he looked at his ticket before giving Adelgard her orders. Adelgard, have the flying eyes and demons remain at your base while I summon the others. The imp workers shall go to the mines at your base to assist in mining for more gems to help not only our dungeon core, but also the recruits that I'll be summoning. Issei said, and the imp workers vowed to prove their master right. Adelgard nodded as she led the others to her base. Issei smiled and cracked his fingers before looking at the dungeon core. Enchant dungeon core. Whirlwind. Conditions are when intruders are within range of it. Issei said as he figured that protecting the dungeon core was a top priority as he enchanted the dungeon core with a protection spell. Issei then pulled out his other 12 creations and decided to summon them. I will use my creation skill to summon my new minions. Emerge and defend this dungeon. Issei shouted as the core resonated at his owner's words before 12 lights emerged from the core. The 12 lights became visible as the monsters were summoned. We have been waiting for you to summon us, master. We shall defend your dungeon. That is also our home. And we shall make the enemy fear your power and might. Glory to our master, Issei Haidu. The 12 demons said as Issei smiled at his summoned servants and began to give them orders. You will have your chance to prove yourselves in 1 month, but for now, I wish to establish you all with a base and orders so that you may prepare for the trial that shall happen in a month. Issei declared that he would make sure that his team was ready for the threat to come in a month, but what the trial was even, he would need to find out their identity. Until then, Issei shall prepare his dungeon base by establishing his general's locations. Base 2. Forest of Kuo Town. The dungeon master chose appropriate bases for his other demons to assist in securing the other bases in the town. The scenery and landscape of the forest were perfect for the two he sent there, since they were made to be a good team that combined brains and brawn very well. Small huts in the trees now marked the second base, and the forest, along with the lake within it, provided cover for them to hide from others. Our master has given us this floor, and we, the Dark Elves, shall ensure that no enemies escape the forest of death. The Dark Elf said as the other rangers within the forest nodded as they saw 2 flying eyes survey the area before they flew towards the Dark Elf and gave their report on the area. The Dark Elf was a deadly archer who ruled the Forest of Death, the second floor of her master's dungeon. The forest allowed the elves to move through the trees and use the creatures and vegetation of the floor as their comrades to face off against the enemies. The leader of the Dark Elves was a woman that high elf archer inspired by a show called Goblin Warrior. Still, the differences were that this dark elf had light tan skin, pointed ears, and red eyes, but the leader had unique eyes that were in the form of a target, while her long silver hair was in a ponytail. The attire she had was one fitting an archer as the armor was light and allowed her to have protection against enemies with weapons. The dark elf wielded an extraordinary automatic crossbow capable of shooting deadly magic arrows that could pierce through almost any regular or magic armor. The dark elf leaped to the ground and she looked at the scenery for a bit before seeing a large wolf emerge from the bushes. The dark elf smiled at its comrade before rubbing the bottom of its chin, making the wolf smile at its master. It's okay, Scar. We'll be ready to defeat these intruders when the time comes. For now, let's go for a run, the dark elf said as the wolf known as Scar howled in the air, which caused the other wolves to howl. The dark elves smiled at each other as they were ready for a hunt. Luna. Rank 2. Demon Dark Elf. The Dark Elves rule the Forest of Death and use the moon to give them incredible speed and strength to face off against their enemies. Their arrows and swords are not their only weapons, they call upon their wolves to aid them in combat and the vegetation around them to fight against the enemy. Skills. Lock On. Allows the user to lock onto their targets and never lose them from sight. Earth Magic. Able to manipulate the earth to aid them in combat. Moon Blessing. Depending on the phase of the moon, the elves will gain more power. It's very ironic that tonight is the night of the full moon. This is a perfect chance to aid our master on this lovely night, Luna said as the wind blew on their floor. She could tell that the trial would be legendary and the start of a new beginning for their master. As Luna rode on Scar, they passed by the lake in the forest that was filled with deadly sea creatures that would chew on the intruders. Still, the lake was enchanted for Luna and their master to walk on the water without drowning, but underneath the water was where those creatures resided, especially the demon shark that lived on the floor and was grateful for its master. When Issei drew him, he was inspired by the humanoid shark known as Nana, before thinking of how to make him an even stronger tank of a beast. Still, the answer was found in the shop as Issei found what he was looking for to give his fourth general a boost in power and make him an actual demon of the water. Zabu. Demon humanoid shark. Rank 2. Skills. Enhanced strength and durability. Amphibious body. Water missile. The user can shoot through the water like a rocket and slam into their enemies. Whirlpool. Fog creation. The user can create a dense fog over the floor to blind the enemies. Only those parts of the dungeon can't see through it. Item. Poseidon's ring. Water manipulation. The user can freely manipulate water around them to use as weapons, shields, or even drowning the enemy. Are you enjoying yourself, Zabu? Luna asked as she saw Zabu come up to the surface and nod in response. Nice water. Fish friends are fun to play with. Zabu said as he looked at Luna for a moment and asked. What doing? Oh, I'm going for a run with Scar. It's very relaxing when you get used to it. Luna said as Zabu tilted his head slightly before asking. Will elf friends eat Zabu's friends? No. I'd just let them back in the water even if I caught them. Don't worry, Zabu, I'd never take your friends away from you. Luna said as Zabu could tell his friend meant it before nodding. Zabu understands. Zabu has a good disguise to fool intruders when the battle comes. Oh yeah? What are you going to use? Fake mustache. Luna laughed as she could imagine the massive shark demon trying to trick others with a fake mustache. Well, I'll have to wait and see this fake mustache. Zabu won't let a friend down, Zabu said as he chuckled and gave Luna a side hug, which she didn't mind, since he had a soft spot for the big guy, even if Zabu is a bit dense at times, but he's a perfect demon who knows how to make others smile and laugh. Yep, the dark elves and the water dwellers are happy to work together in the forest of death. Third base. Kuo Town Mall. The third base was actually the mall, and granted, it may not look like it would be a good base, but thanks to the residents, it was littered with deadly traps, as the torches within the mall barely lit the area, but gave it a nice haunted effect. Fufu. Issei-sama was generous with us when he permitted us to use the floor as our hunting grounds. A voice laughed softly as a woman sorted through her collection of undead souls that possessed the golems around her. This was a demon alchemist who specialized in potion making, alchemy, manipulating the souls, and creating deadly homunculus and golems. She took on the form of a slim demon with cedar brown skin and long curly hair kept into pigtails with bangs by black hair ties. Her hair was colored in a desire red that features the insides colored in a dark navy blue, and white swirled streaks on her pigtails and one on her bangs. Her eyes had wide irises, red sclera, and slit pupils, and her makeup consisted of burgundy eyeshadow on her eyelids, black lipstick on her lips with a strip across the center of her mouth, and fangs inside. The woman wore a pimped-out tea-length dress that was colored in white, black, and desire. Her dress features short puffed sleeves, along with a black triangle and desired heart patterns located at the bottom. Her fingerless gloves appear to be longer, and they are instead desired and white striped. She also wore black tights and desired flats with white palms on top. Oh, I can't wait to see how well this potion works against those stupid intruders, though I am going to need a test subject. The woman pondered, then snapped her fingers. Hassan. Can you come and test this potion for me? The woman called out as another person appeared from the shadows and bowed to meet her. Apologies, Alice, but I was checking my traps and making sure humans avoided them. Some can be very foolish at times. Hassan said as she walked into the moonlight to reveal a young girl with short dark green hair, which she had tied up fan-like in a hair bob style. Her hair was dark enough to appear black in some lights. She had creamy skin, sharp fingernails, and a lithe and agile body. She had reddish-violet eyes and wore red eyeshadow and red lipstick. Her hair was tied up using a red ribbon, and a black ribbon choker was adorned in a bow at the back of her neck. She was wearing traditional kunoichi, female ninja, garb. Her black ninja tunic was sleeveless, cut off midway down her thighs, and exposed the cleavage of her DD cup breasts. She also wore a bright yellow sash tied at the front of her outfit. Her hands were covered in thin, tight black gloves on both of her hands. They are holstered by her middle fingers and extend beyond her wrists, just short of mid-forearm, along with tight black cloths acting as foot guards on both legs. They started midway up her shins down to her middle toes, each held by thin straps at the bottom arches of her feet. Alice. A demon alchemist. Rank 2. Skills. Puppetry. Controls the living and dead with deadly strings. Golem and homunculus creation. Soul manipulation. Allows the user to manipulate the souls of the dead. Potion brewing. You can create potions of any kind. Explosion magic. Able to create small orbs of explosion magic to throw at her opponents or place them in her golems to detonate when desired. Alice, the childish alchemist, loves to manipulate the souls of the dead to create new homunculus and golems in her alchemist workshop and the black cauldron that her master had given her to use as she saw fit. Hassan. The shadow demon. Rank 2. Skills. Shadow cloak. This item covers the user in shadows that muffle their movements and scent, as well as prevent them from being harmed by most magical attacks, except holy magic. Shadow magic. Allows the user to manipulate shadows around them to either bind the enemies, kill them, or create weapons for the user. Indestructible stomach. Able to contain many weapons and items within her stomach and expel them to use in perfect condition. High speed regeneration. Allows the user to be healed in an instant, even if the user's body was destroyed, as long as magic is filling her body to repair the damage. It's fine, Hassan. Oh, I can't wait to play with my lovely new friends. Maybe Master will reward me if I do a good job. Alice pondered before giggling while picturing her master rewarding her for a well-done job. Perhaps he will, but before that, I would like to ask about the potion, Hassan said as Alice clapped her hands, happy to have Hassan as a partner in the dungeon. Fourth base. Residential areas. Within the residential area was a security office that was perfect for the two who were given the station to prepare and use as their base to not only enforce the law, but also protect humans and keep an eye on the area. The two demons who served there were the chief and a deadly enforcer when others broke the rules but were still fair in their judgment. All seems quiet in the neighborhood. There are no problems and no magical disturbances. It looks like it'll be a peaceful night, the chief said as she kept an eye on the radio and smiled at the base her master had given her and her partner. At first glance, the chief is a young woman with brown hair and amber eyes. Her hair was in a long ponytail that was shoulder length. She was wearing a military uniform, while her arms were metallic in place of flesh due to the heavy body modifications that Issei had within her. The girl had razor-sharp teeth and claws, while her tail resembled a dog's. Ah, Rin. I'm here to see how you and Cheshire are adjusting to the area. Issei said as he returned to the room and was assaulted by a flying tackle from a girl named Rin. Issei-sama. Rin shouted in joy as she licked her master's cheek with enthusiasm, as if he had been away for a long time. Her ponytail seemed to act as a tail since it wagged in the air. Heh. It's nice to see you too, Rin, but I wasn't gone for that long. Issei said in reassurance, while Rin got up and poked her fingers together while nodding. Well, that's true, but it was lonely without you, Issei-sama. I felt you would leave and forget me alone, so I was scared I would be abandoned again. Rin said as Issei walked over to Rin and gently soothed her by whispering sweet words into her ears while gently rubbing her back, making Rin whimper in joy as she felt loved by her master. The problem is that Rin was based on Seria Ubiquitous, and while she does have a sense of justice, she doesn't go wild crazy on anyone she deems a villain. Issei was able to make sure that she wouldn't be a total psychopath, but a fair enforcer for the dungeon while he was out. On the other hand, her personality reminded him of himself when his childhood friend Rin moved away, and he was alone. Rin was a demon hound demohuman with the abilities of a demon hound, such as fire breathing, but Rin's true strength was within the unique armaments that Issei bestowed upon her to make her more of a deadly berserker. Issei then took Rin over to the throne, and he laid her body on his lap, which made Rin smile in joy as she snuggled into his shoulder. Oh, calm down. It's not like he was gone for good. Our master only left because he was checking in Adelgard and dropping off her partner in crime. Cheshire said as he appeared as a humanoid cat with wavy white hair. Their cat-like ears and tail were covered with yellow and white fur, respectively. They had ruby red eyes, and their knees had demarcated joints like insect legs. The Furpitu's hands were slightly larger than an average human hand. Their clothes were a blue overcoat with 6 yellow buttons and cufflinks, shorts, orange socks with thin black stripes, and a pair of blue shoes. It's an honor to see you are well, master. Would you like some tea? Cheshire asked as her ears twitched a bit. His eyes betrayed her intentions of wanting her master to be around them longer, which was an issue Issei found out since he knew that yokai were affectionate and loyal to their masters. Still, Cheshire was similar to Rin in wanting to hug her master. Come here, Cheshire. Issei as Cheshire's tail poops up as she hugs both Rin and Issei, happy she was able to nuzzle with her two favorite people in the world. Rin. The demohuman hellhound. Rank 2. Skills. Demohuman transformation. Flame breath. This allows the user to spew flames like a flamethrower, but the flames weaken as the move is used more and more. Hell chains. chains that are able to bind and trap those entangled in them to prevent them from using their techniques. Iron jaw and teeth. Nothing escapes the user's jaws as the teeth dig into even diamond armor, and by eating steel, the teeth and jaws become even tougher. Unique skill. Berserker transformation. This allows the user to become a berserker and destroy all enemies when given the order. As a berserker, the user feels no pain as they kill the enemies until they die. Rin is a hellhound demihuman who enjoys being near her master and an enforcer of justice, but is unsure of what justice is at times, so she relies on her master to help her understand the word. Cheshire. The demihuman hellcat. Rank 2. Skill. Camouflage. She is able to hide herself from others by transforming her body and hiding her aura and true intentions. White lie. Anything that the user speaks is perceived as the truth except by her master and Rin. Superhuman hearing, speed, reflexes, strength, and stamina durability. Night vision. Magic claws. Claws that are capable of slicing through spirits and even hard materials such as stone and steel. Issei smiled as he patted the heads of his two precious creations before pondering that Adelgard was doing well with her new partner. Adelgard was supervising the mining operations before seeing her partner approach her as he called out to her. "How's it going, Adelgard? No one's broken any bones, right?" Her partner asked as Adelgard turned around and replied to him. "Do not worry, Byakuya. No one is injured, but I do thank you for your concern," Adelgard said as Byakuya nodded before inspecting some of the gems they'd already collected. "Ah. These gems will be wonderful since some of them are rank 2, but I can see a few rank 1 gems. Still, they'll be very useful in the long run," Byakuya said as Adelgard was glad her master had given her a partner to help with the mining operations. Byakuya was a man who valued earthly and spiritual riches as he enjoyed the world of money, but the things money couldn't buy, such as true loyalty, made him appreciate things like family and friends. Similar to a moth imkai, Byakuya had pale skin with purple eyes. He had long black hair tied in a ponytail with bangs, and his lips appeared to be painted red. His outfit consisted of a light blue haori with red patterns and a brown hakama. He also wore a dark blue vest with yellow markings on it, as well as socks with his sandals. Byakuya kept his sword tied to his back, which he only used to defend himself and his workers. Byakuya. The demon of greed. Rank 2. While he is a moth, Yaokai also enjoys making money for his family and comrades, and creating precious memories with them, since he believes that memories are the best thing a person could remember from their lives. Things were looking up for the beginning as they knew their master wished to be prepared for what was to come in the coming month before the trial began. Guo Academy. Student Council Office. Issei was glad he could make sure his parents were asleep when he left the school earlier after summoning his creations, around 4 in the afternoon. This way, Issei could be with his family before waiting for his parents to be asleep as he headed back to the dungeon around 9:30 in the evening. It took a lot of time and effort to secure the 4 bases in the last 5 hours, but the results were excellent on his first day. Some may call him overly concerned with the details of creating his minions and bases around the town. Still, Issei knew it was necessary to be over-prepared rather than unprepared, especially when it comes to the supernatural world. After saying goodbye to Cheshire and Rin and having some nice tea with them, he headed back to the student council office. He smiled as he slipped past security and went into the office to see the other 5 members waiting for him. "Hello, President. Have you finished checking up on our areas?" a female asked. Issei rolled his eyes at his vice president, a very prideful woman who was content with Issei as the council's president. "I do apologize, Astria, but I was merely making sure they were comfortable in their new bases. I made sure to give Byakuya to Adelgard since she could use his expertise to see how rare the gems are and how they'll prove to be valuable to our members as well as the workers," Issei said as Astria nodded before Issei sighed in his mind. Astria is a bit rebellious due to her goddess-like complex, thinking she should be the president, but after I asserted my power over her, she backed down. However, she can still be a bit rebellious around me, mostly because of her wounded pride, since she was beaten by an inferior creature. At the very least, she is more tolerable than she was a couple of hours ago," Issei said in his mind as he looked at his secretary, who was smiling while scrolling through their phone. "And I take it you've adjusted to your position as Secretary Asmodeus?" Issei asked as the woman sitting there smiled. She nodded before she moaned as she let her body transform to reveal her demon form. Asmodeus was a woman with dark purple skin, her wings appeared on her back, and her lips turned dark pink with the transformation. "Asmodeus. I made her with inspiration from the sin of lust and also the dark kinks that I love, since Asmodeus is a seductive succubus-like demon that could fight without needing tantric energy to fight or survive, since this demon relied on draining one's stamina by making them live their deepest and darkest desires and dreams." But what makes her unique is that she's also excellent in reading people and seeing their true intentions as well as their desires, so it fits her as a secretary, since she's a social butterfly. Issei said that Asmodeus may be a succubus, but a smart one who isn't only interested in having sex. The other two positions, treasurer and general affairs officer, were present as well. The treasurer looked at his laptop, smiling, and then chuckled at the finances. Seriously? Did they put so much money into the clubs just because of their achievements? The Kendo club isn't that impressive since they've only been able to get in the top 4 for the past 3 years, and even the clubs such as the manga club, the tea ceremony club, and the other small ones, are really stretching the budget when it could be used for better means. The demon said as he laughed at the clubs on the list, before making a mental note to give the clubs an explanation of the reasons their club would be shut down. Hold on before you start sending out the Savnok. We should at least hear them out since the school is supposed to have some clubs that are for recreational activities and such. Think of the bigger picture. Issei said as Savnok hummed in agreement, he then bowed to his master and thanked him for correcting his mistake. Savnok was over 7 tall, spiky yellow hair, and wore a red collar cape. Savnok has an intimidating appearance, but comes off as ambitious and very open with his desires. Granted, he isn't an intellectual demon like Byakuya, but Issei wanted to help his skills by having him as the treasurer. As for the general affairs officer, she is a bit troublesome, given that she's a bit socially challenged, but she's a good person, given her personality. And how are you feeling, Shiva? Issei asked as Shiva smiled and looked at her master before asking as she picked up a black cat. Can I keep her, master? I promise to take care of her. Shiva said as Issei mentally prepared for Shiva, unknowingly her cute side to get her way to keep the cat. Shiva had spiky, boyish, short hair. She also wore short shorts, a sports bra, and a cape. Shiva has a rather stern face, as well as an intense glare, which causes her to scare away people and animals when she tries to touch them. She also had a rather lithe build, but despite that, she had a strong enough grip to crush another demon's hand in hers easily. Her skin also lacked pigmentation, making her appear to be albino, which made her more unique. Still, Shiva also enjoyed taking on a role as Issei's trainer, since she also wanted to cuddle with Issei and be called Big Sister, much to Astria's annoyance due to the two demons wanting to be very important in their master's life. Normally, Issei would enjoy this, but now he was slightly annoyed by it when Savnok chuckled at his master's predicament. Shiva, you can take care of the cat, but only if you make sure to take good care of her. She is your responsibility, and while I do trust you, I'm a bit worried you'll squeeze her too hard. Issei said as Shiva pouted while mumbling something about her not destroying the ravel in front of her when she sat down. Shiva has inhuman strength, which causes her to accidentally forget she's superhuman when she does mundane things like throwing a ball, punching, or trying to kill a fly on the wall. Now, then, it's time to begin the discussion on preparing for the trial that will come in a month. Please state your names and your bases as you introduce yourself. Issei said as Astria stood up and began. Astria, leader of base 1 near the abandoned area. I am Asmodeus, leader of base 3 at the mall. Come check out my special club and you'll be so relaxed you won't want to leave. Asmodeus said as she licked her lips and giggled as if she had told a funny joke. Savnok, leader of base 2 and the elves, as well as Abu, are well since they are keeping the area secured and have not detected any intruders. And I am Shiva, leader of base 4, and this is Lieutenant Choco. Shiva said as she held up the small cat in her hands and waved a paw at Issei, who was amused by this before he then summoned a gavel and banged it on the table. Now, then, it's time to begin planning. We only have a month to prepare, so let's make the most of it while the school isn't so busy before the new year begins. Issei said that he would change and enjoy the chaos that would come as he and his army made his hometown not just their base but their home. And so how was this story? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this story with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.